All right. Hope everyone's doing well today. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Why don't you go ahead and share with me your name, where you're from, and possibly what you do. Also, I'd like to make sure that you can all hear me and see me okay. So if you'll just type in so I can hear you and see you okay, that would be extremely helpful. All right. Romania, very good. Very good. Tom, all right. Great, great, great. All right. So you may see me in here responding. Both names should say Michael, but I've got myself in here using a monitor here so that I can see your questions and comments from here. And then I have another Mac that's actually doing the broadcasting and the recording. Yes, so we are live now. That's right. Bangladesh. Okay, very good. India. Good, 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 good. All right. So like I said, we'll be getting started now in about 1 minute. Just wanted to go over a couple of logistics. You should see at the top of your screen somewhere a little green button that says follow. So if you want to be notified when we go live, go ahead and click that follow button. Okay. If you're on a mobile device, I'm not quite sure where it's at, but it should be there. You should be able to find the follow button there someplace, and I'll have to check that out and let you know the next time. The other thing is, if you're on a mobile device, you may need to tap the screen in order to see the chat or the ask a question button. Okay, so just tap your screen, look around there, and you'll see something that says chat, and that's if you want to send a chat message from your mobile device. Okay, all right, so yeah, we're just about ready here, and we'll go ahead and get started. There's still probably some people who are trying to get in. So like I said, if you're here and you're watching, let me know your name. You actually don't have to tell me your name because it should pop up there. So just let me know where you're from. And I believe that everyone is able to hear and see me okay. All right. But if you can't, just let us know so that maybe we can help you to troubleshoot that. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to go and make sure I turn off all the notifications on my computer, and then we'll get started. Great, great. So we're all set. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I think you're going to be very excited about what we talk about, as I hope you are in every webinar or in every session that we do. I'm hoping to make this one kind of a series. And so what we're going to be talking about are 3 steps to your smooth speech breakthrough. 3 steps to your smooth speech breakthrough. And what do we mean when we talk about breakthrough? What we're talking about is that you may have been, or you may be struggling with feeling limited by your speech. Okay, that's probably the reason that you're here. It's probably the reason that you've been watching my videos or taking my free courses or taking my paid courses, or if you're a coaching client, why you're doing it. It's because your speech has been limiting you. That may mean some different things for different people. For some people, it means that it's limited their social life. They haven't been as outgoing, and they haven't been speaking up or speaking out or introducing themselves or participating in conversations as much as they would like, right? And when you do this for a period of years, it can change your personality. Maybe you're really an outgoing person. You really love people and you love to talk. but your speech has limited you. So it's kind of remolded, reshaped your personality to a degree, to a degree. Or you may have felt like your speech has or is limiting your career. Okay. So maybe you haven't taken advantage of career opportunities. Maybe you haven't applied for certain jobs. Maybe you haven't spoken up in meetings and shared your thoughts. And then your colleague, she or he speaks up and shares a thought that you had, and everyone says, "Oh, that's just brilliant. That's incredible." And you're like, "Crap, I had the idea first, or I had the idea and I really wanted to share it." Or maybe you've been in school and you haven't spoken up. You knew the answer, you know the answers, and you haven't really spoken up and participated. So perhaps your speech has limited you in your education or your career, and it may even be having a financial impact on you. So if you're watching this either live or you're watching this in a recorded version, it's the same thing, that you're out there, you're watching this and you're thinking, man, you know what? I could have done a lot more if I didn't feel limited by my speech. So that's what this message, this session is going to be about today. It's going to help you achieve a breakthrough. You're breaking through the limitations. This is not necessarily a technical webinar. Like some webinars that I do are very technical, and we talk about airflow and so forth. And we will talk about just one or two things that are a little technical. This one is more about some things that are going to set you up so that you can take advantage of the speech system or any other course that you might take that's going to help your speech. This is the foundation. This is what's going to keep you inspired and motivated and moving forward. So this is actually very, very important. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say this is really more important than all of the technical stuff that we talk about. These 3 steps are really more important. And in fact, one of the steps has to do with technical things, but everything else is it's more important than the technical stuff. And you'll see why. So let's just go ahead and get started. And if you have a question, there's a little area there that says ask a question. So put your questions there so that it just makes it easier and better and more organized for me to answer your questions than in the chat. If you can't find that for some reason, then by all means use the chat, but please try to find that little section that says ask a question and put your questions there. Okay, so let's get started. 3 steps. These are very, very simple. You may want to write these down or type them. Writing is actually better, but you can type them. And the reason that you may want to write or type is just to help you remember them. When you write and when you hear it and you see it, it actually compounds the ability of that information to be impressed upon your memory. Okay, when you're writing it, you're using your body, right? When you are reading it, you're using your eyes. When you're hearing it, you're using your ears. So you're using multiple senses, okay, to interact with this information. So that's why it's not because you're necessarily going to go back and read the notes. I used to take notes all the time and never go back and read, but it helped me remember it. So you might want to take some notes, and that's the reason why, so you can remember it. So this first step is to accept 100% responsibility for your speech and your life. Now, I know you've heard this before, but I want you to hear it again. And you'll hear me talk about it again because it's so very important. Accept 100%, not 80%, not 50%, 100% responsibility for your speech and your life. Now, what am I talking about when I say 100% responsibility? Well, there are many people out there who may watch this video, and there are many people out there who will never see this video, unfortunately, but they feel like victims of their speech. And have you ever felt like a victim? I'm sure we all have, right? You feel like a victim, meaning you feel like you don't have any control over it. You want to say something, but you can't. Or you were born this way. As far back as you can remember, you've been struggling with your speech. Or it just happened when you were 5 or 6 or 9 or 10 or something, or even older. And you don't know why. You didn't want it to happen. You didn't make it happen, right? It just happened. So sometimes people feel like they're victims, like they're being victimized by their own bodies, by their genetics, or by some social force, or by something else. They're being victimized. So as a victim, they feel like there's nothing that they can do. And so then they feel like this is a permanent disability. And then they begin trying to make their current situation more comfortable and make other people understand that, hey, this is the way I am, this is the way I speak, and you're just going to have to accept me for who I am right now. And I'm just going to have to accept me for who I am right now. I am a stutterer, and this is just the way it is, right? Or you might just be thinking, it's always been this way. I've tried lots of different programs. I've gone to some of the top people in the world. I've even taken a look at some of your videos and listened to your audios, Michael. And yeah, it improved for a little while, but then it came back, right? So what happens is people can develop this victim mentality. Now, here's what I can tell you with absolute certainty. Absolute certainty. I've worked with enough people who some have been severe stutterers all the way up to people who are very, very mild. And we've seen them transform their speech. And this is all based on science and how our brains work. But what happens is sometimes people then are not willing to put in the work long enough. Sometimes they're willing to put in the work for a month or 2 months, but then after that, they just get tired. And that's where these items, these steps that I'm going to talk to you about, that's where they come in, right? Because you can get excited about something. You can say, you know what, I really want to improve my speech. I really want a better career. I really want a better social life. I take this program, 90 days or 6 months or 3 months, boom, I'm going to be done. And then when that doesn't happen, then people get discouraged and they start feeling like, well, maybe there really is nothing I can do about this. But I'm here to tell you that's absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. I've helped enough people to know this. I've personally struggled with my speech from the time I was very, very young, right? I can remember being in first, second grade, having to do speech therapy. I can remember sitting in class, not being able to answer a question, even though I knew the answer. I just wouldn't come out. So I can remember this. And I can also remember the time when I felt liberated, when I felt free, when I felt like, man, I can say. And that didn't mean that I never struggled or that I don't still struggle or have disfluencies. Remember this. Everyone has disfluencies. Everyone has disfluencies. A certain percentage that every person has of being disfluent. Okay. So we're not trying to wipe out disfluencies, and stuttering is a disfluency. We're not trying to wipe that out. We can't wipe it out. What we can do is we can replace it. We can reduce the disfluency down to normal levels, right? And we can replace it with smooth, clear, and confident speech. You can do that, but you have to take 100% responsibility for your life first, right? For your speech and for your life. So what this does is this empowers you, this inspires you, this helps you to look for solutions, to look at the long term, right? To look at the long term and not just, 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. You're looking at building a skill, creating a new pattern, creating a new habit. You know that this is going to take time. We all want quick wins, and you'll get some quick wins, like almost immediately. But you also know that you're going to have some struggles, just like when you're learning any skill, when you're developing any habit, you're still going to be struggling, or you're still going to perform that old activity or those old thought patterns from time to time until you've learned the new skill or you've completely replaced the habit. And even then, there's still going to be those times where you get stuck, where you struggle, just like me, right? So when you accept 100% responsibility, what happens is you now feel empowered. You change your perspective from a short time perspective to a long time perspective. And when you do that, you're going to be far more successful. You're going to be far more motivated to take the time necessary and to do the things that you need to do to improve your speech. But you have to take responsibility. So what some people do is they give the responsibility over to someone else, to their parents, to me, to their speech therapist, to God, to someone else. They give the responsibility of improving their lives, of improving their speech, or whatever it is, to someone else. And what happens is there's something called locus of control. When people don't feel like they have control over their life, it can lower their self-esteem. It can lower their confidence. They can feel less motivated. They can be less effective and less productive, right? And less fulfilled. When you feel like you have control over different aspects of your life, then you feel more confident. You feel better about yourself. You feel better about your capabilities, right? And you actually will perform better. So control is critically important. You're feeling like you have control. So what we do in the Pro 90 speech system is we help you create little successes, small wins, where you see that you actually do have control. In fact, you may have heard me talk about this in some other videos, that there are a few things you have control. This is some bonus material. You have control over your breathing. If someone's hyperventilating, what do they tell them to do? Take a bag, breathe deep into the bag. And unless you fall out, right, you do have control over your breathing. You can breathe, and you can control how quickly, how deeply, how often you breathe. You absolutely have control over your breathing. Number two, you have control over your body. You can move your hands. You can use facial expressions. You can move your head. You can move your body, right? So the reason I mention that is because some people are very stiff and tight and tense when they have to speak, and they're just like this, and they can't say anything, right? And the energy is building up, and it's got to come out someplace. When you're moving, you're releasing energy, you're creating a flow, you're creating a rhythm. There's been some studies done that have showed that when we use our hands to express ourselves, it actually enhances that. It actually helps us express ourselves better. So you have control over your body. You can move, right? Which helps release energy and helps create a flow. It helps you communicate better when you use your body and you use your hands as opposed to being stiff. The third thing that you have control over is the speed of your speech. You do not have to speak fast or quickly. You don't have to. Now, you may have to develop it as a habit, right? But you can control the speed of your speech. And this takes awareness and it takes practice. So this is very, very important. This is very, very important. I'm sorry. I was just reading a post. Someone was posting something and they said, this seems fake. And then someone says, please watch the video and stop disturbing others. Thank you all for taking care of the community. This is not a fake webinar. This is live. And if it were fake, I wouldn't have been able to read that and tell you that I just read it, right? Okay. So thank you so much for taking care. And I do understand when someone's watching a video and they think it's real and it's fake, but so that's just a little aside commercial. So let's get back to it. So you can manage, you can control the speed of your speech. Why did I just talk about those three things? Because when you know that you can control those things, and those are critically important for speaking smoothly, clearly, and confidently, right? Breathing, airflow, you hear me talk about that all the time. Airflow, the speed of your speech, and your body, you may not hear me talk about that as much, but we do talk about that. When you learn to control those things, and you feel like, wow, just listen, now watch this. You feel like I actually do have control over something that impacts my speech. And when you feel like you have control, then you don't feel like such a victim. And then you're able to take greater and greater responsibility for your speech. You know what? This is something that I can do something about. Okay. So that's very, very important. It's very, very important. Now, let's talk here about the second item. Okay. The second item. And the second item or second step is develop the habit of daily practice. Develop the habit of daily practice. So that's the second step, is you want to develop the habit of daily practice. Now, what do I mean by that, and why is this important that you develop the habit of daily practice? So, and what do we mean by daily practice? One thing that I've discovered over the last few years is that developing the habit of practicing every day is more important than what you're practicing. Okay. It's more important than what you're actually practicing. What do I mean by that? If you don't develop the habit of practicing, then what will happen is you'll get started, you'll be excited, and you'll go through any program. It doesn't matter if you're going to a speech therapist or you're going through another program, and you'll get started, and you'll get in there and you'll do the stuff for a little while, and then you'll start to slack off, right? And even though it might have worked, but once you start to slack off, then what you're doing is you're not giving your brain the time it needs to develop the connections, to develop the new neural patterns, the new pathway, the new behavior, the new thought pattern, right? You're not giving your brain enough time to do that. You're literally retraining, you're regrowing, in a sense, different areas of your brain. You're making new connections. That's what's happening when we learn new skills or we create new behaviors. We're literally creating new neural connections, or we're strengthening ones that are there. So it's like growing a muscle, right? It takes consistency, it takes activity, it takes time to do that. It doesn't happen overnight. Does that make sense? That's the one thing. So we'll hear people talk about self-conscious and subconscious and visualization and doing this and practicing this. It boils down to how our brains work. How our brains work. How do we learn how to create new patterns and new habits? Once you know that, you can make anything work. So the second step is to develop the habit of daily practice. And remember, that's even more important than what you're practicing, is developing the habit of practicing, right? So let's talk just a little bit about a couple of ways that you can do that. I'm not going to go into detail because the strategy that I'm about to share with you, we're actually going to be releasing it in a brand new program, if you will. Think of it like Pro 90D 4.0. You've seen me indicate that, but you've only seen a little small part of it, right? Just a small part of it. And it's called the Ultimate Smooth Speech System. The Ultimate Smooth Speech System. Completely new content, new strategies, new videos, new audio. Yes, we're going to bring over the stuff that works, right? We're bringing over the stuff that works, but we're adding to it enhanced strategies. What my clients and students have said works, we're bringing that over and we're focusing on it. What the science says that works about creating habits, about learning, we're incorporating that. Things that I've actually been slowly incorporating into my coaching. So all these things have been tested. So one thing that you can do to develop the habit of daily practice is something that we call small steps. You take small steps, right? And what that means is you have a goal. I want to start speaking smoothly. Well, that's big, right? That's huge. And your brain's like, whoa, no, I can't do that. So you break it down into very, very small sub goals, very, very small sub steps. And what we're doing in this new system is we're creating a series of daily routines that will allow you very short periods of time. See, normally I say that you need about an hour a day, which is still true because I see people who spend about an hour a day get the best results the fastest. What if an hour a day is overwhelming for you? And we're going to have in this new system a way for you to break it down into maybe something as small as 5 minutes or 15 minutes a day, right? Where you can actually take and break down the strategies, the techniques, or the skills into small 5-minute increments where you practice them and then you go out and you implement them in very small increments of time, small blocks of time. And what this does is this eases your brain. It expands your comfort zone because your brain doesn't want to change. It really doesn't want to do new things because it has to use more energy. Your brain is very efficient. If it weren't, it'd be too big to carry on our shoulders. Average head weighs about 12 pounds. If our brains got so big, we wouldn't be able to carry it, right? So what happens is we need to ease ourselves. Now, sometimes if you go into like a boot camp, you're thrown into it, right? And that's what you've committed to. But other people may need to ease into it so it doesn't throw off the alarm bells, right? Our mind doesn't go, whoa, no, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. Or I can't continue to do this, right? So we ease you into it with small steps. This is now being currently incorporated into my coaching, slowly incorporating this strategy. And it will be incorporated more and more, especially when we release soon this new system, the Ultimate Smooth Speech System. So you want to keep your ears open for that, okay? Small steps. And what these small steps do is they help you. In fact, there's a book called it's actually called Many Habits, okay? And I've used this strategy for many years before Many Habits was written. I used this strategy as well. But you take little small steps that get you used to the habit of practicing. So you practice a little bit each day. You get used to the habit of practicing. And then if you want to do more than 5 minutes, then you can. You can do 15, 20, 30 minutes, right? But you do the minimum of this 5 minutes per session, 15 minutes a day. Does that make sense? So you develop the habit of daily practice. And you might be saying, well, Michael, this webinar is not really that exciting because you're not giving us strategies for how to speak well. Well, let me tell you, as I told you in the beginning, what I'm telling you now is actually more important than those strategies and techniques. Why? Because if you use them sporadically, they're not going to work for you long term. Does that make sense? If you feel like a victim and let's say you're working through the system and you're working through all these techniques, and then you have a bad speaking experience, you go, oh, I knew this wasn't going to work, and I've been trying. You feel like a victim, then what's going to happen? Person quits, person stops, or they start to slack off. If you haven't developed the habit of daily practice, then you start out, right? The placebo effect. You start out, you feel great. You say, oh, wow, man, I'm really speaking well. And then you hit a dip and you're like, right? And then you stop practicing every day. So your brain doesn't have the time to develop the new connections. And then you start to regress. Do you see how at least those two things are really more important than the techniques and strategies themselves? Because, and I see this, right? I see this. This isn't just theory. This is what I actually see with students and clients. And that's why the coaching and the community works so well. It's because we keep each other accountable. We keep each other accepting responsibility. We help each other to develop and maintain these daily practices, right? The habit of practicing daily. Okay. So that's all that I'm going to say about that. But just know that you have to develop, this is a step, you have to develop the habit of practicing daily. And we have strategies to help you actually do that, okay? It's critically, critically important. Because once you develop the habit, then you can ramp it up, right? You can ramp it up. And once you develop the habit of practicing, then you can take and plug in whatever you like, right? You can plug in a way to maintain airflow, to speak smoother, just speak and think more clearly, to speak and think and feel more confident. You can plug that in to your already developed habit, and you can turn that into a new skill, into a new habit pattern. Okay, so that's why we have to develop the habit. And you can apply this to other areas of life. My clients say that because they've now developed the habit of practicing of this, their daily routine, they've developed this habit of practicing and working on their speech and working on their confidence, so forth. They've also been able to develop other positive habits. It's called the halo effect, right? You develop a skill or a habit, or you see benefits in one area, it spills over, it begins to impact other areas, okay? The halo effect. Let's look at the third step. Let's look at the third step here. Okay, so the third step has to do with maintaining or focusing 80% or more of your effort on these two habits, these two habit patterns. Focusing 80% or more of these two habit patterns. What two habit patterns? Number one, maintaining smooth and constant airflow. You've heard me talk about that. And I'll tell you why I'm focusing on these two. So the third step is to focus 80% or more of your effort on these two habit patterns. And the first one is maintaining smooth and constant airflow. Okay. So when we say maintaining smooth and constant airflow, you probably know what that means. That means that if you're speaking choppy, you're starting and stopping, you're running out of air, you're forgetting to breathe, you're gasping for air. One of the things that you want to achieve is smooth and constant airflow. The way that I'm speaking right now, I'm not gasping for air. I'm not starting and stopping, right? It's smooth and it's consistent and it's constant. And that's what you want to do. You want to develop the habit pattern of speaking with smooth, constant airflow, right? This is a skill that you can learn. This is a habit that you can develop. It's a pattern that you can develop with practice, right? And that should empower you, right? When you know that, okay, this, even though I speak like this and I've been speaking like this for decades, I can develop this new pattern of speech. That should empower you, right? Because that means that your potential is unlimited. You're no longer limited by, oh, I can't get started. I can't say what I want to say. I keep getting stuck. I keep anticipating. No, you can develop a new, smoother pattern of speaking. And once speaking gets easier for you, once your speech gets smoother, once your airflow starts to really flow and speaking gets easier for you, then you stop thinking about speaking. It's just like walking. You don't think about it. The brain doesn't have to struggle and think about it. You just do it naturally and easily. Does that make sense? Isn't that what you want? You want to be able to say what you want to say, when you want to say it, the way you want to say it. You want to be able to speak smoothly, to speak clearly, to speak with impact, right? To engage people, to persuade people in a positive way, right? So focus 80% or more. 80%, that means the majority of your focus, you want it to be on, number one, smooth and constant airflow, right? And the second one is relaxing. Relaxing. You want to focus a lot of attention on learning to relax. Now, where do I get these things from? I get these things from these strategies, if you will, from my own personal experience, right? Just learning to be more relaxed, from science, right? From reading, and from my clients and my students. Okay. So I built the original Pro 90D. People used the techniques and strategies. They started to get results. And they told me what was working the most, what was the most helpful. And people from around the world. So you can't say, oh, this is only for these kind of people. This is only for people that speak English. No, we have people who come to us, who take our courses, who do coaching, right? Who I coach with from around the globe, literally, that speak all different kinds of languages, right? The one common thing is they all have to be able to speak and understand English, enough English to watch the videos, listen to audios, to participate with me. But most of my clients speak multiple languages. So this works for everybody. I got Black clients, white clients, Indian, African, Romanian, German, French, Spanish, Chinese. It doesn't matter, right? This works. This works for you. So learning to relax is something that my clients have told me, wow, when I just tell myself to relax, when I just try to relax, it helps my speech. Now, there are times where we can be completely relaxed and still get stuck. So I'm not saying that if you only relax, if you're just relaxed, you're not going to get stuck. That's not true. But here's what is true. The more relaxed you are, the smoother your speech is going to be in most situations, or at least in many situations. Actually, I'm going to go as far as to say most. The more relaxed you are, the more relaxed you are. Because often what happens is people begin to become kind of anxious and tense and tight. And this interferes with their speech. Now, again, there are situations where you're at home, you're with your family, you're relaxed. There's no need to be anxious or tense or stressed, and you still get stuck. Right? And that's where the other aspects of this program, that is changing your baseline pattern of speaking, that's where that comes in. Okay. So we're attacking this from various directions, right? Not just one, not just relax, not just doing affirmations, not just practicing, but all of those. Okay, so we're addressing it from every angle, every dimension, every aspect. But relaxing is very, very important. So when I ask my clients, what's helped you the most? Well, one, airflow. It has to do with airflow. The second one is learning to be relaxed. And here's the thing. Being relaxed, and listen to this, being relaxed can help you become a more relaxed person. When you learn how to be more relaxed, it'll actually help you become a more relaxed person overall, not just in your speech. How do I know this? My clients tell me. They say, hey, since I've been going through this program, I've become a more relaxed person. I slow down. I don't do things as quickly. I'm not constantly moving and doing 1,000 things. So I'm more relaxed. I'm slowing down my entire life in other areas as well, not just with my speech. So becoming relaxed is a habit that you can develop. And you've probably heard me talk about this in one of my free programs, or even in my paid program. Becoming a more relaxed person will impact every area of your life. It'll impact your health. You're more relaxed, less stress, right? Using less energy, less tension, less anxiety. This just helps your body in many different ways, right? It can help you in your conversations where you're not rushing and people are not understanding and you're not getting stuck. People respect people who can take their time and articulate, right? You don't have to speak fast. Some of the most brilliant people in the world don't necessarily speak fast. There are brilliant people who do speak fast, and there are brilliant people who take their time. So it's going to help you in your relationships. It's going to help you in your career. If you speak fast and people can't understand you, no matter how smart you are, that's going to negatively impact your career. So learning to relax, slow down, and take your time is going to help you in your career and in your social life and in every area of your life. So learning to relax and slow down is a habit that you can develop, all right? And it will impact your speech. Does that make sense? So let me just jump over here. Looks like we have a couple of questions. See if I can see these. All right. So here's a question. Hi, Michael. I'm a self-study student, modeling you and practicing every day, but I can't use it in daily conversation because English is not my mother tongue. Great. This is a very, very common question. You're modeling, you're practicing the modeling, but it's difficult to use because it's in English and you may speak another language. Many of my clients are Indian. Not all. I have lots, again, I have lots of clients from other parts of the world, from the US and so forth, but many of my clients are Indian. Many of them live in the US or other parts of the world, not necessarily India. And so many of them speak multiple languages. Probably the biggest one would be Hindi, right? Gujarati, Punjabi, right? So there's many different languages. So here's what you have to do. And it's not easy, but many of my clients have done this. If you're modeling, you need to practice your modeling in both languages. You translate what you're modeling, right? I suggested people use a modeling clip that I put in the program, and you practice that. Translate that into your language, Spanish, French, Hindi. And what you do is you then adjust it, you modify it so that it sounds normal in your language. Now, Hindi is probably it's a faster paced language. However, there are many excellent models or people in Hindi who speak slower, right? Because I've heard, right? People have told me, well, here's a guy, he speaks Hindi and he speaks slowly, and he's one of the best speakers in our country. So there are people who you can find who speak your language and they speak it slower, and they're excellent speakers. So no one can say that everyone in my language who speaks well speaks fast. Of course, there are people who speak your language and they speak fast and they're excellent speakers. But there are also people who are excellent speakers who speak slower. I'm not talking about slow, dragging where it sounds weird. I'm just talking about slower or dynamically, fast and slow, fast and slow. So what you want to do, I'll give you a couple of options, is you translate whatever you're modeling into your language, and then you make sure that you adjust it so that it sounds. So you can't extend every word in the same way you do in English in your language, but you can extend it a little bit. There's something you can do with it to extend it, to articulate it. In every language, you have to maintain airflow. There's a rhythm to every language. So you want to find that rhythm. You want to make sure you're maintaining airflow in your language. And so I've had my clients do their modeling practice in both languages. And then as they present it, as they videotape themselves, as they share with a family or friend, then they can adjust it so that it sounds normal. Now, it's going to sound different than the way you have been speaking. It may sound different from a lot of the people who are around you, but it'll sound good, right? And at first, it won't sound good to you because it'll feel kind of strange because it's not what you're used to doing, right? So you'll say, oh, this is weird, this is strange. Well, that's only because your brain isn't used to it. If you keep speaking that way, people will get used to it. Just like people have gotten used to you being quiet or getting stuck or whatever, they'll get used to you speaking smoother and a little slower. Does this make sense? So you want to practice that modeling in both languages. A second option, and you can actually do that, but a second option is to find a model. I don't recommend this during the first 8 weeks or so, is to find a model in your language who speaks slower, who has a similar style to mine, right? They speak slower in your language. You don't want to find a model who speaks fast, who's very excitable, because that's not going to be very helpful for most people. For some it might, but for most people it's not. You want to find someone who appears very relaxed. They can be energetic. They can be more energetic than me, right? People have different styles. Sometimes there's higher energy than me, and that's okay. But the thing you want to remember is you want someone that's going to help you feel more relaxed. It's going to help you speak smoother, not someone that's going to jack you up, right? Because that's generally not going to help you. You can try it. I'm just telling you, it probably won't work. Don't spend too much time finding another model and jumping around from this. That's why I ask people, just model me for now. But if you find a model and you can stick with that one model or two models, then do that. So I hope I answered that question. All right. Here's someone says, make your course pocket friendly. If you really, really want to help people, you suffer through the speech, you have failed that pain, then I can't see any reason to monetize something which will make that pain burden go away. You can always make the payment voluntary, hoping something positive here. Yes, I've had many people say that I should make these programs free, that I should make all of this free. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because there are some of you out there who will understand why that doesn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't make sense. And you'll say, well, why doesn't it make sense? Of course you can make it free. And in fact, for those of you who know me and have been following me, you'll see that I have more information than anyone on the globe, on the globe, free, good information where you can actually go. And if you actually use that information, you can smooth out your speech, right? It's all out there. You pull it together and it's all out there. Okay. So someone says, make it free. It is free and it's already out there. You just have to do the work to search and to find it. So I'm not going to take a product that I've spent years and tens of thousands of dollars and experience putting together and put it on a platform that I have to pay the hosting for and make that free, because I wouldn't be able to continue to do that, right? But in fact, there already is enough information out there for free. You just have to know how to go out and be willing to go out and find that information and use it. You could find a few videos, and if you practice those videos, you can smooth out your speech. How do I know? Because I've had people do it. I've had people use my free stuff, and that's it. They say, boom, I'm done. Like, I'm speaking smoothly. This has helped me. They haven't paid me a dime. So there is enough free information out there. In order for me, though, like, we'll just back up just a little bit. I'm not sure what you do for a living, but when people ask me that, I say, do you work? do you work for a living? And some people work in a technical industry. Some people are doing things they don't want to do, but they're doing it for money. But if you get to the point in life where you're able to do what you want to do, what you love doing, what you're called to do, and you want to do that for a living, then you've got to generate revenue from it. You have to make money from it. You're doing what you want to do and you're making money. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you'll do a better job at it, right? If you're doing what you love to do and you're making money, that's great. You don't have to. Some people can volunteer and do things on the side. I don't want to do this on the side. I do this full time, which makes what I do even better. And I get paid to do what I love to do. I get paid what I'm called to do. And I do it very well. And I'm not ashamed of asking for money. And you might say, well, you charge too much for this. Well, you go out and you shop around. When you go to a surgeon or you go to a doctor, you don't say, oh, well, you charge too much for this. Let me go find someone cheaper. You want the best. You want the best, right? You want someone who's invested their time and their money in becoming the best at what they do. And that's the person you want. If you can afford it, then you do. If you can't afford it, then you go to someone else. So if some of my products cost more than what you're able to afford, then don't get them. Get the free products, right? Because it's all there. If you want services that bring you closer and closer to me as coaching, or you want services that are more organized, then you have to pay for it. And they're reasonably priced, because I've seen programs around the world that cost as much or more. So that's all that I'm going to say about that. All right. Here's someone that says, Dear Michael, how to relax in high tense situations when we have already anticipated we're going to start on a word, which we can't replace or use any preforming word when it has to be answered to the point. All right. Great question. I'm just, okay, just wanted to look down and see how many more questions we have. All right. Here's the thing. You're only as free as your well-developed alternatives. You're only as free as your options. There's virtually no situation where you don't have options. Now, I'm not saying where you have options and like if someone asks you your name, you have options, you have to say your name, right? There are certain words that you may have to use. But that's it. You have to say your name or you have to use those words. What you have to understand, though, is that you always have other options. You have options as to how you say it. You almost always have options as to saying something before that. Like you said, preforming words where you can't say it. There's almost no situation where you can't. I was in the military and there were some situations where I couldn't say a word before it. But in like if I'm giving a command, and even then, sometimes I could make a sound like, right, before. So there's almost no situation where you can't say something, even if it's an right? There's almost no situations where you can't say something before it. And remember, I've done this myself for decades. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and we've hardly ever been able to find one situation where they couldn't say something before the word. Almost, remember, almost doesn't exist. So, and if you believe that, then you have more options. And when you feel like you have more options, guess what? You feel more relaxed, you feel more confident. And then when that word does come up, you say, oh, I can just say this. For many people, they come into this thinking, there's nothing else. I have to say this. Someone asks me my name, I have to say my name. If I'm giving a report, I have to say this word. I have to start out with it. And then once I talk to them and we work together, they feel, oh, okay, I can actually say this. I can actually say it like this. And guess what? They do it. I had a girl, and this isn't exactly the same situation, but very, very similar. She always thought when someone asked her name, she had to give her name. Just straight away, give her name. And so she kept getting stuck. She kept anticipating this word's, my name's coming, I'm going to get stuck. So she got stuck. So little technique, she just started saying, Maria. Her name wasn't Maria, it was something else. But so someone would say, so what's your name? And she'd say, Maria, right? Maria. Now I'm not recommending that you use all the time or whatever, but it's just a little sound. You can make it quiet. Maria, right? And so what happened is, as she started to say that, she found that saying her name, now just follow me, because I know some people say, oh no, that's a trick. It's a strategy. And here's why it's a strategy. Once we were able to give her options. Now, follow me closely here. Once she had options for saying her name, that was one, we gave her some other ones. She said, oh, I have tools now. I don't feel trapped. Now, follow this. This is critically important. She didn't feel trapped. So she had options. So she felt freer and more relaxed when it came to saying her name, because she knew she could just say, Maria. And so once she started saying, Maria, she started creating successes around saying her name. And once she started creating successes, saying her name got easier. And she told me, now most of the time, I don't have to say, I can just say Maria. You see how strategically we got to her saying her name, but we had to put something before it initially to build those successes, to give her the freedom to be able to say her name. Now, some people want to go right to that, and if you can find a way to do it, do it. But I'm just telling you, strategically, this way works, but you have to believe it. Now, if you don't believe that you can use something, an introductory word or sound before, if you don't believe you can't, then you won't, and you're going to be locked in. But if you believe that you can, and you look for ways and you make it so that you do, you're going to strategically open yourself up to knowing that you have the tools, to feeling more confident, feeling more calm, and to being able to say those words that you want to say. Trust me, this works. Obviously, you don't have to trust me, and you can say, no, that doesn't work for me because I have to always just say this word like that. And I'm telling you, I can talk to you, and we'll figure out ways where you don't always have to just say that word first or say it by itself. There's always a way. It's virtually always a way, 99.9%. Okay. So I hope that I addressed, let me just make sure I've answered. Yeah. So, right. And you can answer to the point, right? Someone says, what's your name? Maria. Right. That's right to the point. Just add a little extra word or sound to it. So you can get right to the point. You don't have to put a whole long sentence, right? It's right to the point, just adding another little extra sound to get the air flowing. And then you stop anticipating. Even if you do anticipate, you'll still be able to say your name. Okay. And then the anticipation slowly starts to decrease. This is a challenge that many people have, and that's why I've spent a little more time on it. All right. Another question here. Dear Michael, what is the most frequent problem invoked by your clients to make them quit while working with you, even if they didn't improve their speech yet? Let's see, even if they didn't improve their speech yet, and what percentage of our clients do you approximate that this is the situation? Thank you. So I have very, 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 very few clients who quit. I mean, I can count them over the years on one hand, literally, who just stop. Like on one hand, I've had hundreds and hundreds. Why not thousands of clients? Because I spend so much time with each client. So, the longer I work with clients, of course, and I've been doing this for it'll be 6 years, right? Straight, full time. This is all I do. And I can count on one hand how many have actually quit. That's not a lot, right? That's not a lot. And sometimes it's because all of a sudden something came up. It wasn't the right time. They just ran out of gas. Multiple reasons. So very, very small percentage of people quit when they're doing coaching. A larger percentage quit when they're working on their own because they didn't pay as much money and there's very little accountability. So what's the percentage? I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you I can count them on one hand who's quit. Now, to your other question, what about even if they did not improve their speech yet? So yeah, certainly there are people who they've seen improvement in their speech, but then they often slack off a little, right? They're not doing the practices as much as they should. They're not getting out there creating situations, right? So there's formal practice and informal practice. Informal practice is when you're actually out reminding yourself to use your new speaking style while you're talking to real life people every day, right? Formal practice when you're practicing by yourself. So sometimes people will do formal, but informal, they'll avoid. So now when we do our screening, if we see that a person is going to be avoiding speaking situations, we won't take them into the coaching anymore because we know we're doing them a disservice, right? You need to be willing to be proactive and actually get out and take advantage of and create speaking situations for this to work, right? Sure, they may do the practices formally, but we need that informal. So yes, we've had people who've gone through, didn't get to where they wanted, didn't get to where I wanted. Very few of them quit. Some people go through and it takes them longer. It it takes them a bit longer and they say, boom, okay, Michael, I need to re-engage you, or what should I do to kind of get back on track? And I'll tell them, and the vast majority of them get back on track. So the majority of people who go through do well. There are some who regress. It's not because of the program. I know you're saying, of course you would say that, but really think about it. This is all out there, right? All the stuff that we're doing is already out there. We've just put it in the system to give you the best chances for success. It's up to you, right? And that's where this 100% responsibility comes in, because you have to understand that you're building, you're creating, you're learning new skills. You have to actually participate in learning those skills, right? I can't give those to you. You're creating new patterns and then new habit patterns. A pattern is kind of a repeated, recognizable behavior. A habit is something that's a pattern that you do automatically. So first you create the pattern, then you turn it into a habit. You actually have to learn the new pattern and then repeat it until it becomes a habit. So it's very, very simple that if you don't do that, if a person doesn't do that, it doesn't become a habit. And of course you regress back to where you were, because the old pattern, the old way of thinking and speaking is still there, right? So we're going to give you everything you need, and we're going to support you to create these new patterns, but you actually have to be consistent and be focused. And as we optimize the program and make it better and better and easier, we're having greater and greater successes, greater and greater successes. So you just have to be willing to say, I'm responsible for this. I'm going to do what I need to do. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to take longer. I know I'm going to have some bumps, right? Everybody has those dips, and I'm going to stick with it. And when you do that, you are going to see progress. The other thing is shifting your focus from stopping stuttering, because if you focus on that, you're going to be disappointed. If you focus on speaking smoother, clearly and confidently, you're going to be ecstatic, right? Because the more you speak smoother, clearer, and more confidently, the less you're going to be stuttering. You can't do both at the same time. It's impossible. So if you focus on this one, right, then that means this one automatically decreases. That's why I call it replacing, right? You're replacing one with the other. So if you focus on that and you actually look for, wow, I spoke a little smoother yesterday, a little smoother. I still got stuck, but I spoke smoother. You folks, that motivates you, it inspires you. Oh, I felt a little more confident. That motivates. And then you keep focusing on that and you keep building that. And then what happens is now you've developed a string of successes that your brain recognizes and it references, and it grows exponentially. It starts to grow, and the stuttering and the low confidence and the anticipation decreases. It's all a process. Okay. So I hope I answered your question. I couldn't give you exact numbers, but I hope I answered your question. While in a stressful situation, how can I remind myself to focus on what I need to do? Do you have a trick or technique for that? So, yeah, one of the things you want to do is you want to start out doing whatever it is that you're doing, right? Practicing speaking or presenting or conversing in no to low stress situations. And you use the new pattern in no to low stress situations, right? You use it so that your brain develops it as a pattern of speaking and thinking in low to no stress. Then you slowly put yourself in low to medium stressful situations. And of course, it's going to break down a little, but you do it and you become accustomed to it, right? You become accustomed to it. You do what we call desensitize yourself, right? So then you increase the pressure. You put yourself in a medium to high pressure situation. Of course, it breaks down a little, but you keep doing it. You desensitize yourself and you learn to perform well. There's a book called Performing Under Pressure. You'll find a lot of what we talk about in there. Our programmers developed before that program, but a lot of that program supports what we do. It's called Performing Under Pressure. It's a book, really. And you'll find that as you put yourself in higher and higher pressure situations and you use your new pattern, then you're able to actually perform in higher stress situations. So you start using, you can't just use it in stressful situations. It's probably going to break down. You got to use it in no to low. then medium, then higher. Okay. And sure, you might have high pressure situations going on while you're doing this, but it's really the only way to do it. You got to step up into it. All right. So what I like to do now, let me invite Tom. Let me invite Tom. Tom, if you're there, let's see if we can find you. Invite Tom just to share a couple of things. Yeah, give me just a moment. Oh, actually, I've got to go to my other screen. So give me a moment. I'm going to invite Tom here. Great, Tom, you're there. All right. Invite on screen. Let's find Tom. And I'm going to also switch my video around. Okay, so Tom, I've invited you.
Hey, Michael.
Great. Okay, so
hello,
Tom,
everyone.
I'm going to go over here and make sure that I can hear you. Okay, say something, Tom.
Hello.
Yes, good. Everyone can hear you.
Awesome. Great to be here. Fantastic webinar. Appreciate it, Michael. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. And I wanted to start out by introducing myself. I'm Tom Harrison. Michael and I have worked a lot together, and we're both excited about what he mentioned briefly earlier, this new ultimate smooth speech system. For now, let's look at what's already out there, because the fact is he's already got the ultimate smooth speech system in place. When he mentioned that there's going to be new work coming up and that he's bringing what has been working into this, the fact is it has been working, right? He has loads of clients who have been incredibly successful with this work. Some of you may know them. You may have been around in the community. You may have heard some of the stories, some of the testimonials. So this is real stuff. And I'm just very pleased to be a part of it. My work is in helping people find and what I call walk their why, to really be on purpose in their lives. And Michael sees the importance of bringing purpose into this work because we all know we don't do anything without a reason. That may not be a good reason all the time, and oftentimes we don't have the greatest reasons for some of the things we do. But I firmly believe that everyone who's on this call, who's here in this webinar, is here for a good reason. You're certainly here for a reason. You're here, you have a purpose in being here. I would imagine one of those purposes, if not the purpose for you, is to have smooth, calm, confident speech consistently, right? To have that, to own that habit that Michael's been talking about, right? And it's a series of habits. It's patterns of speech, but ultimately it is the single habit of smooth, calm, confident speech, or however you want to frame that for yourself. Something I thought that was very important that came up, and it was kind of inadvertent. It was somebody had made a comment about, hey, maybe this should be donation based, maybe it should be free. And again, as Michael said, he has plenty of free content out there. And it's actually quite true that if you were able to take full advantage of that content and took the time to actually develop the practices and create the habits that Michael's speaking to, then you actually could have it. You could have that smooth, clear, calm, confident speech. But we all know, I think most of us know that there's a reason there has to be a structured, consistent program that simply costs money to create. It costs money to put out there. It costs money for Michael to be here. And my belief is that everyone here has something that you feel called to do. This is clearly Michael's calling. And it would be great to get some comments about this. Like, what are you excited about in your life? What do you feel called to do that you know smoother, clearer speech is going to make a huge difference for you, right? Don't we all want that? Don't we all want to have that dream job, or even just that better job? Don't we want to move to that next level in our lives where whatever's blocking us now is out of the way, is just simply no longer stopping us, not holding us back? But there's an interesting comment about sporadic. Michael spoke to the necessity of consistent daily practice, and he spoke to the fact that sporadic, occasional practice is really not practice, right? That's not going to develop a habit, and it can be very frustrating, right? Because we might feel like we're doing work. We might feel like, well, why isn't this working? I'm doing this, but if we're honest with ourselves and it's sporadic and it's occasional, then I'd like you to step back for a moment and ask yourself, well, is one of the challenges with my speech that it's sporadic? Is one of the challenges with my speech that I speak smoothly only occasionally, and I really want it to be consistent? Right? So we know this, right? We know that in order to have something anchored in our lives, we need to create the habit. The challenge is there are some things that seem like, well, we didn't know we did that work necessarily, and we do it. It seems to be automatic. But if we look back in our lives, there's always the practice that developed that, right? So imagine combining that knowledge of knowing that you have to have that daily practice, that daily consistent practice to really strongly build the habit. And so it's kind of a circle, right? We have the habit of building the practice to develop the habit we're trying to get. But imagine if you had that and you combined it with the desire to move to the next level. And I know you have that. So imagine if you take the power of purpose. And what is it for you? I'd like you to ask yourself, why did you show up here today? And I also want to congratulate you for showing up, because the fact is, showing up is often all it takes. Because the fact is, so many of us could do the work, but we're just not showing up. So congratulations for coming here and taking the initiative, because without initiative, without showing up, you can't even begin the habit. You can't even begin to start moving. So consider this as step one for many of you. Maybe it's a step in a journey for many of you, but you're certainly on the way. And all you need to do is keep going. And then ask yourself, not only why did I show up? So why am I here today? And could it be something beyond the speech itself? Is there something I'm moving toward? Is there something I want? Is there something I'd love to step into? Am I looking at a new job possibility? Possibly, maybe a new career, a promotion. Maybe it's at home. It's with your team at work. What is it? What is it for you? And maybe, and almost certainly, it's not just one thing, but is there something now that's really compelling you to feel like, okay, I've lived with this long enough. I want to move forward. I really want to have this smooth, calm, confident speech that's going to allow me to be who I want to be. So ask yourself that. And I would love to see some feedback. And if you have any questions for me, let me know. Thanks for allowing me to be here, Michael.
Sure. Hey, Tom, if you can just mention to people, in fact, I can just mention it now, that for those of you that are out there and you're contemplating and you're thinking about why you're here today, and you have something that's coming up like a job possibility, right, a job opportunity, or you've had a job opportunity that didn't do well, or you have presentations coming up. I have 2 people who just completed their PhDs. So maybe you have something that's coming up and you really want to start working on your speech and you want to accelerate that process, and you're a professional and you're willing to invest both time and money, then I want to encourage you to book a session now. And you'll see the little button right down beneath the video, right? book your session now. Go ahead and do that. Set up an assessment session, but make sure that you are ready to take action. Right? This isn't just a conversation that we're going to have. This is for serious people who are professionals. You know that this is going to work for you, but you just have some questions about how we're going to help you achieve smooth, clear, calm, confident speech, right? How can we do that? One-on-one? Is it a group, self-study? Then you want to come and talk to me. You want to book that session. Do you have anything to add to that, Tom?
Am I still here? I would say, as you're considering what Michael just said, first of all, know that there's no obligation to this, right? And this session will help you assess, is this right for me? Am I doing the right thing for me at the right time? And as we spoke to earlier, we all have reasons for what we do. And so ask yourself again, why would I do this? Why am I here right now? Why did I show up here? And it's wonderful if you're here to get the content that he has, to absorb this free content, and if that's helping you, that's fantastic. He's got plenty of stuff out there. He will continue to do this. But if it's really feeling to you now that, I'd really like to see if I can take this to the next level, if I can take my speech to the next level, and you can, is this the time for you? Does it feel like it's right? Does it feel like, hey, okay, enough of the sporadic and the occasional? Let's start developing this habit of daily practice, and let's move forward and become the smooth speaker I want to be. This is an opportunity. So just by booking a session, the session itself is not going to cost you a thing. And it'll give you an opportunity to learn more about who you are and who you can be as a smooth speaker and how we could help you get there.
Yeah. Good. All right. If there are no other questions, we've gone about 72 minutes, so about 12 minutes over the hour, which is normal because we want to make sure that we leave time for questions and so forth. And we'll go ahead and wrap up in respect of your time. Okay, great. So someone did ask, how can I eliminate stage fear? And I think I addressed that when I talked about stressful situations. It's really a matter of taking the skills that you're learning, being consistent in practicing, but practicing them and using them in no to low pressure, medium pressure, high pressure situations. So if you do that, and maybe you join something like Toastmasters, in our new Ultimate Smooth Speech System, in the community that we're forming around that, we're going to have virtual opportunities for you to practice. So it's going to be like a virtual Toastmasters. That's going to be a part of it. And we'll start slow with that, but so that's a way for you to overcome stage fright. You'd have to get up on stage. So this is one way for you to do that. So I hope that I answered that question for you. Tom, if if you have something else, great. If not, then we're going to wrap up and thank everyone for being here. Do consider, if you want to accelerate the process, if you want to take your speech, your life, and your career to the next level, and you're a professional, and you are willing and able to invest time and, yes, money, then go ahead and book your session. Click that link, book your session now, and it'll take you through just a little process. It'll ask you a couple of questions. And I screen. I don't accept everyone who books a session, actually. Sometimes I deny sessions because we only want people who are serious and who are ready. Okay. So Tom, did you have anything else?
I think you said it perfectly. Okay. Thank you, brother. Good to be here.
Thank you guys for being here. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Okay.
Take care.